In a sign that Pope Leo's popiness, his clarity, his resolve, his goodness and decency and steadiness in the face of Donald Trump's relentless attacks are getting under Trump's skin, not the Pope's, Trump decided to escalate his politically perilous feud with the incredibly popular and well-regarded first American Pope with these comments that he made on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Pope would rather talk about the fact that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and I don't think that's very good. I think he's endangering a lot of Catholics and a lot of people, but I guess if it's up to the Pope, he thinks it's just fine for Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
So, a quick fact check, the Pope is decidedly against nuclear weapons in every and any context, all popes. And this Pope has never said that Iran should have a nuclear weapon. Those deranged comments from Trump came days ahead of when Marco Rubio is set to visit the Vatican on a trip to Rome to try to ease tensions caused by Donald Trump. I'm going to bring into our coverage Anthea Butler. She is the chair of the Religious Studies Department at the University of Pennsylvania. She is the author of the book, White Evangelical Racism. And joining me at the table, former Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs during the Obama administration, political analyst Rick Stengel is here. Anthea, I'd say this is getting crazier, but it's always been nuts, so it's sort of staying the same crazy. But what Trump is revealing about the Pope continues to make the Pope look incredibly sort of consistent and strong and steady to more and more Americans, right? I think Catholics already knew that here and around the world. But now Trump's entire coalition, which is being ripped apart by the week by members of his own coalition leaving, are being exposed to sort of a one-sided feud with a very popular, very steady, very respected figure. This seems to only have one loser, and his name is Donald.
Yeah, that's correct, Nicole. I think that he can't help but put his foot in his mouth every time he says the Pope's name, right? This is just sort of ludicrous to me because the Pope has never said anything about wanting nuclear weapons. That's first of all. I think what Trump's problem is that he's conflating not wanting to have war with wanting to have nuclear weapons. And so it's a basic misunderstanding of first what Catholic, belief is, and secondarily trying to advance his case for this war on the back of Pope Leo. And that's just not going to work. That's first of all. I think secondarily, this trip is very interesting to me personally, because, somebody inside the White House knows that this is bad, and they know that they are going to lose Catholic voters this coming fall. And so Marco Rubio going as Secretary of State is, I think, sort of an olive branch. He's definitely not sending the vice president because, theologically, he just wouldn't pass muster. And I don't think that the Pope would want to talk to him anyway, since he's been lecturing him. But I do think that this trip opens up a door for President Trump. Whether or not he takes it is another question altogether.
Rick?
Yeah, I was watching earlier doing the story about the ballroom. This is just as insane. Attacking an American Pope is like the moral equivalent of building a $400 million ballroom with taxpayer funds. The Pope has an 80% popularity rating among American Catholics. And it's what's also insane about the administration is, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Vance attacking the Pope and saying, he better be careful when he's talking about doctrine.
Religion, yeah.
Have you heard of papal infallibility? When the Pope ex cathedra from the chair is talking about Catholic doctrine, he is infallible. And so this American Catholic kind of criticizing him, it's another kind of insane shooting themselves in the foot, and Trump sort of not caring about anything in the second administration.
I think, Anthea, what it reveals about how easily other religious leaders have been co-opted and become drunk with power and proximity to power also comes into sharper focus, right? The Pope is doing what the Pope would always do. And I'm sure the Pope doesn't find any of his statements out of the ordinary. I'm sure part of him is surprised they're even newsworthy. But it does reveal how American conservative religious figures have capitulated and kowtowed to Trump over the last decade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it shows up, really mainly for a few groups. Let's say, first off, evangelicals. I think that this makes them look absolutely awful. I can't say it any stronger than that. It is basically an abdication from their moral core. If they said they wanted to have pro-life and there's nothing else that matters and they have embraced Trump the way that they have, then that puts a stain on top of their moral questions and also their witness that they would talk about. That's number one. I think for other religious leaders like prosperity gospel people, Pentecostals, and others, their wholesale embrace of Trump shows how just emotionally and morally empty and bankrupt they are, because this is very easy. The gospel is easy. The message of Jesus is easy. You want peace. You don't want the sword. You don't want to hurt people. And so by embracing Trump, they have embraced, I have to say it like this, they have embraced a moral filth, a morality that they don't seem to have anymore. And when you hear the real morality of what the Pope is saying, basic everyday gospel stories, everyday things that Jesus said, I find it fascinating that everybody is melting down because he's just saying things that are normal Christian beliefs.